Today, I'm led to reach into a very sensitive subject, which has also impacted my home and family, and has been veiled to reason and spiritual knowledge for many years. I submit in humility that this subject is completely misunderstood, as people miss the value of weighing this whole subject through a lens rooted in spiritual insight and discernment, instead of just the worldly knowledge and limitations of people seeking to understand from a place of unknowing, and then forming personal allegiances within that journey, allegiances and beliefs below our godly image. It may be time to seek God first and relinquish our allegiances formed within the veil of humanity. And in plain language from me to you, I'm asking you to consider setting aside your previous allegiances and or beliefs, and also set aside the potential of a reactive or offensive sense of feelings as you look deep within you to touch upon the truth of God, not necessarily my words, but what is God speaking from within you? And allow for this deep and delicate subject to be weighed through the integrity that is God within as we share in a dialogue. And I ask you to consider, and feel free to like and subscribe, then please comment your thoughts to help others that observe this video to see what your thoughts might be. What kind of questions are you experiencing? What are your insights? And then we can respond to you and help people deepen and come back to the realization of what this is from a spiritual view, and maybe even discover the gift available in God and freedom from the ignorance and false allegiances we have formed in the past. And there are so many interpretations of this subject that it is hard to choose where to begin in helping to peel back the layers of deception or misinterpretation. However, I think I'm going to begin by asking a few basic questions relating to our journey within humanity. And this might help to open and expand our thought process above what we're witnessing on the world and the battlegrounds that people are expressing. First, I would ask, do you each realize and really understand that our whole human experience is merely a short season of our total existence? Have we become so captured by our human existence to think that this is the only thing, this is the only game, this is the end game? Can you allow for your perspective to be stretched beyond that or increased above your present limits and your understandings to welcome in a divine oversight that goes beyond that limited view of your human nature and the form you have taken? Can you allow for the aperture of your view to expand beyond what you feel you know is absolute in areas you find limitations? Because how can we establish an absolute in a place we feel we are questioning? I would also ask, personally, would you agree that there is a physiological aspect to the human journey? Is there possibly a psychological aspect to this as well? And I would like to take you to the image of the baby. I've shared this before. Have you ever watched a baby laying on a bed and discovering that they are actually the ones moving their face, where they realize they get a little tick in their face and then you see their eyes move towards that direction and they realize that they have moved their face? Have you ever seen a baby discover that they are moving their hand, and then all of a sudden they become elated and wiggly in the discovery that they are doing this. This is part of the physiological discovery of learning how to move and manipulate energy through our bodies. Have you watched and learned as you have interacted with others and discovered your shortcomings in relational interactions? And then through this process and this journey, found ways to refine your actions and improve your interactions or interconnected with others as you refine your abilities. This is a small peek into the two aspects of the human journey I mentioned, where you're looking at the physiological and the psychological and the psycho-interactiveness. Yet there is another that many have not discovered or have overlooked, or in some cases have chosen to consciously set aside, that there is a spiritual reality of our origins and the nature of how it is rooted in our whole existence. And the very beginning of our experience is first spiritual in nature. Right now, within the walk of humanity, there is much that is stirring. And in humility, I see that many are not looking to determine what the spiritual implications are upon them or the human race as a whole as these things present. And as we look to society today, one of the largest issues present is the transgenderism, which has a direct impact on about 1 to 3% of the population. However, since it's such a small population that is being impacted, I don't want people to let that limit the true breadth and depth of this subject. In my humble observation, I feel this is possibly a spiritual hijacking of the physiological and psychological aspects of a very important process within our spiritual journey as humans. In a world that divides us into labels like male, female, this or that, what if the soul's true journey isn't about choosing one side or the other, but about embracing wholeness within us all and being blessed fully with what we evidence in our form without alteration of the manner in which we are formed? In other words, to recognize that we are whole. We are complete in the form that we are. And for some, the experience of gender dysphoria, and a brief explanation, that deep sense of discomfort between inner self and outer form can feel like an urgent call to change. But what if that call isn't about becoming something different, but about awakening something that is already within? In the lives of most humans, we all encounter questions as we develop and progress through puberty and on into adulthood. We process our views of self through limited experience in our youthful mind. While our brain is forming and while our hormones are processing and developing through the norms of growth, as well as the strain we've put on that process, as we've altered the foods that we consume, through increased hormonal introduction, imbalances through chemicals that suppress hormonal production and balance. With all that being said, we have to kind of ask, what if dysphoria is less about the body and more about the soul's longing to embody both the sacred masculine and divine feminine? Strength, yet tenderness. Logic and intuition. Action, yet surrender. Not one or the other, but both in balance and reverence without destroying the vessel that is present within this journey. Ancient spiritual traditions, like the descriptives gods used to describe self, meaning God, and women, is the same as a Kenegdu, as the one that is strong when the other is weak. Or from Taoism's yin and yang, soft and hard, to Kabbalistic teachings of Chokmah and Binah. These remind us that masculine and feminine energies are not opposites, but complementary and supportive forces within each of us. Carl Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine within men and the masculine within women, as essential for becoming whole. What if the pain of dysphoria doesn't stem from a broken body, but from a misunderstanding or redirection of the soul's call? In our modern world, it pushes us to either or, male or female, this or that. But what if the soul's truth is both and the full manifestation of both the masculine and the feminine in the form of one individual? Perhaps the journey isn't to reject the body, but to honor it as a sacred vessel in its present form, to follow Yeshua's instruction that we've spoken to before, to receive all things in blessing, not as something to fix, but something to surrender into the fullness of who we truly are, and to awaken to the full divine nature within, where masculine and feminine unite, not in conflict, but in harmony. The truth is, your spirit is without gender. The soul transcends form, and our bodies project what we choose to live by. If we live by the Spirit, as the great teachers remind us, and we set aside the limitations of the soul or the limitations of our body, we can awaken to the truth that we are already whole. Nothing missing, nothing needs to be altered to make us enough. We merely need to seek within to gain awareness of how we are whole now. That can only be discovered as we seek God within. Imagine yourself discovering God within, that God is both feminine and masculine. And then imagine moving with grace between these energies, both masculine and feminine, not confined by them, but by empowered, or I guess, but by being empowered by their balance within us. Imagine elevating yourself and others, embodying strength while being compassionate, embodying wisdom while moving through courage. The journey isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you truly are, and that you are whole, and that you are complete, and that you are of the divine and truly divine as the divine sees you. You are not incomplete. You are the embodiment of the sacred balance within. You are the soul's awakening. This need not be evidenced through physical alteration. Could be realized through surrender into the spiritual truth of wholeness in each and every breath you receive. Choose to manifest in the nature of your being all that you can be in this beautiful balance of the feminine and the masculine as you live in a beautiful vessel here to express glory. If you are willing, this is available. If you return to Yeshua's words to say, I receive all things in blessing. In this, I am whole. I move with grace as I balance the order of how I respond in situations. And I pray you find the courage within you to release limits and boundaries formed or impressed upon you by humanity or your own thought process, which might subvert the true spiritual presence and power that you hold, and that you might start a journey to seek deep within you to find the living presence of God as Avun Martike Nertun Ara'ah, which is the living breath of God's Spirit within you, making room and softening all places to allow and sit to dwell within the truth and reality that it is God within you that empowers you, not the perceptions or views of others. Be blessed and know that we at Grace Healing are present to serve you. Search us up on gracehealing.org. Look for us on gracehealing.video on YouTube, and we look forward to serving you in the days to come. Reach out to us on Facebook through Grace Healing Community, and I pray that you will allow yourself to once again return to the opening part of this video, to allow for the aperture of your understanding to open, yet let it open to discernment. Not to take in all the knowledge that man presents, but to surrender to the truth and reality that you are whole within, and that you can be balanced in the order of expression of life, that all things can be present within you, and then move with grace from one to the other according to the situation and what it calls for. You are loved. We remain here at Grace Healing and present to receive you as you reach out, and we look forward to seeing your comments. Please like and subscribe. It helps to move the channel forward, and we are thankful to the many of you that we have been blessed to serve, the tens of thousands of people that we have served through Grace Healing, for it is through the process of service in you that we have been gaining insight into how God's presence moves through us through holy compassion, to evidence the living reality that each of us is whole as we seek God within. We love you and pray for the opportunity to encounter you, to experience you, and to fall into God's love for you each and every day. Take care and be blessed.